This is the first in my series that I will do this year on teaching rugs. This is the Flower of Springs rug, and it's made from 1-inch pennies. And the first lesson is you do not need to have pennies layered on top of one another to do a penny rug. The other thing is you do not need to do a blanket stitch for a penny rug. And with this rug I am going to show you some things about thread, how thread changes the look of a rug, and there are some things with thread that although it's probably not wrong, it should be better. For instance, sometimes the thread and the penny are so close together that you really don't notice the stitching, and we're going to go through all of those. I made a little chart, and I'm going to go over the different colors and what happens when you use different colors in a penny rug, and that will be in the next section of the video. My lighting is not very good for this video, but I just wanted to hold these up close so you could see them, and I've numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Let's see if how I can do this. You notice the light colors on the top row, and very similar colors, and then softer colors. Oh gosh, it's very difficult to do and show. And then darker colors, and another row, black, and the last one I will show you when I'm finished the video, because that one I think works the best of all the colors, but it's very interesting that the color that it is. So the one thing that I do with every rug I make, every design, I really don't do anything without doing something that I call the 10-foot rule. And what happens is when you're working on a project, on a rug, you're working under a bright light, and your eyes are about 12, 16 inches away, and things look very different close up than they do when your rug is finished and it's displayed in a room. So what I do is I test my colors, I test my threads. Sometimes I forget to test the threads, but I always test my colors by putting them in a room over a sofa back, a chair, something like that, and then just looking at them from a distance. And it does change the way the colors react and the colors look, and it also changes with the threads. Sometimes your threads are too dark, sometimes they're too light, sometimes they match your pennies, your color, and you can see this thread, this thread, this thread. It looks as though this penny isn't stitched. They fade in the background. So I'm going to give you some examples of what this would look like when I use the 10-foot rule, and also another rug that I'm working on. And then we will come back and I will show you exactly what colors are in these, and some of them are quite a surprise. So the 10-foot video is next. So this is my new rug that I will do. It's going to be a 3-layer hit and miss penny rug, and I've put various dark shades for the border, but as you notice, what your eye goes to first is that light circle. That should not be there. And as I go away, further away, about 10 feet, not quite, you see how that really stands out. And that's what you're looking for in the 10-foot rule. Whatever your eye goes to first is what you change. It could be something that's too light, or it could be something that's too dark. So I'm going to change that penny, and then I will talk about the dark parts in the rug. So I've changed that light penny, but as you can see, there are still some things going on in the rug that I really don't like. And one of them is the dark pennies inside. I don't think I will keep those. And as I go further away, you'll notice your eye goes to that sort of a jagged line of dark. And I don't want that. So I will remove those and add something, and then I will keep working on it. I think just by looking at it, it's too much of the pinkish color. So I'll try that. But that is the 10-foot rule, because close. So this is the little thread sampler that I've stitched. I have it up close and down. It's not a very good, really, it's very difficult to do, holding the camera and trying to do it. So this is what you see close up when you're stitching it. And now we'll go back and there. So there are things that you will notice from away. A rug is different because it has the pattern and a lot of pennies, but from a distance your eye will see that some of those threads are not working. So in the next segment I'll show you the different threads and why I think they're not working. So now I will show you the threads that I've used. The first row was the Accru pearl cotton from DMC, and I would never use white, but it really shows up on the rug as white. And if you use that with the rug, it would be very similar to a lace pattern, a very light color in the rug, and it would look good. But the second row, I've used this. This is a DMC floss that I've aged a bit, and this is the difference between the two colors. But there is very little difference between the two rows when they are stitched. So if you're going for a light color, I would go for a grayish, brownish color rather than a very, very light color. The next row is very difficult, which is this one. I've taken a color from the pennies and I've just used one color. So I've used the lilac color and matched it. And it looks, you know, it should work. It looks as though it should work, but it does show lilac here. On these, it really doesn't show lilac. It just sort of blends in. And from a distance, you're not going to see the stitching as well with that one color. So the next one is number 4, and I decided I would use a dark color. So I used a brown. It's a medium brown, It's 839. And that does work. It has a contrast for all of the colors, but it will give you a darker look to your rug. It will not be the soft muted colors. So that's that one. I'm going to skip this one because it's very interesting, and I'll go to number 6. Number 6 is what I probably would choose for shades if I would take my pennies to the counter for the DMC floss and choose colors. It looks as though those would work, and I would switch the colors on different pennies. I wonder if you can see that. So that's this one. However, the colors are different. There's a reddish, not a reddish, but a coral color, and then there are 2 browns, and there's a brown and a greenish color. But once I did them, it doesn't really look very different than this top row where it was all purple. All mauve was this row. So it really, that one didn't work for me. And I actually didn't stitch this penny because this penny and this penny are the same color, and from a distance it just, the thread does not show up on those pennies. This color is a bit bright on the pennies. And the next one I used was a black, and with the very light threads and a very dark black thread, they can be used, but they're difficult to use, I find. This black would look very good if your base that you have the pennies on was black, and it would look as though the color just folded over on the pennies. And the only thing you would see, you would not see a contrasting color here and then a dark and then your colors. You would see black, the black stitching, and then your colors would peek out. And that would be very nice. That would be a very nice rug, and it's very easy to do because you only have one color and it works. This one is my age-dyed thread. This is the color. Let's see if I can get it up close to you. And that's what it looks like. It looks very dark when you have the bundle, but when you have the colors on the rug, they look just off-white. They look natural. It shows up on every color. This one not so much, but it's a bit lighter, so it does show up. So the difference between this one with my age-dyed thread, and we'll go up here, and oops, gosh, and number 1 and number 2, which were the light threads, is this. If you can see, that's the difference. And my thread is so much darker, but yet it doesn't look that much darker when it's stitched from the others. There. It's a good comparison. However, the one that I thought is really, it looks the best, is number 5. The reason I like number 5 is because nothing is bright like this one. They're muted, but they have a good contrast to them. They're not too dark. This one is a bit too dark, this one isn't. And you will be very surprised, as I was very surprised. These are the colors that I used. Very dark. These are greens, grayish greens, and then I'm not really sure what to call that, but one is 3787, 3860, and 645. But to take my pennies to the counter and choose those colors, I never would have done that. That was really a surprise to me. But to me, those are the ones that really work. The other ones will give you a very nice rug. They will give you a different looking rug, such as the black and the off-whites. But to have the nice muted colors, it was number 5, and these very unusual dark colors, which is very interesting. In the next segment, I will show you how to choose your threads. And one would think that you would do it this way. You know, I'll just, oh, that looks good. That looks fine. This doesn't match anything, but that's not really how I choose the threads. That's not a good way to choose threads. So in the next part of the video, I'll show you how to choose your threads. So in this part of the video, probably you do this. I didn't until recently, because I really don't use a lot of floss or other threads other than my string. But this is not a good way to check a color, because your color is deeper. There's just so many threads, it's going to show darker. So, and they probably are not going to like this at the shop. If you are using 2 strands of floss, you would check your color with the 2 strands of floss. That does not work because it just goes in the background. That works. That's very nice. That works because it's lighter. That really doesn't work that well. That really doesn't work that well. But to go here, it's quite a contrast. But when you use the 2 strands, it just blends in with the color, especially that one. So this is the way I would choose. These are the nice colors that I gave you the numbers for, but please don't think that you need to use those numbers. Just experiment with thread and see what happens. That's nice. That works. Could be a bit darker. That one blends in, doesn't work. But what a difference. I would use that on that. And if you're using the 6 strands of floss, you see how strong it is? It looks as though it will work on pretty much everything. But when you have the 2 strands, it's a bit different. See, 2 strands, it sort of blends in. This one is the other color. Very strong. Very strong. Not quite. But I separate and use 2 strands. Oh, very difficult. No contrast at all. A bit. Quite good. Good. Very much. Not very much. So that's how you would test your threads that you're using. Do the exact amount of thread and then do the color test. And that is how to do the Flowers of Spring. I just want to go over the finishing of it. In your kit, everything is numbered. You have a bag with your center circles, row 1, row 2, row 3. I just wanted to go over a few points with the Flowers of Spring teaching rug. I have heavily aged this because I didn't like, I think probably I should say I couldn't stand the light blue thread, and this is the thread that I used, the light blue, so I've aged it. And I really tried to make up and use thread I had. This this row, I bring it up and you see it. This row, the colors are very similar to the penny. Really doesn't show up, and the same with this one. This is a good contrast. This is a good contrast. This one, and those two are good. But even though I don't have some of the threads with the colors that they should be, everyone seems to like the rug. So really just take what I've shown you with the threads as just an example, something to think about. But in the end, the threads, whatever you choose, will work, will be fine. Now, the next part of the video, and the last part of the video, I'm going to show you how to do the stitch. When you receive your kit, everything is marked as to rows. I have the pennies for the center, and then row 1, 2, and 3, and you would just add them as you go along. Something that I didn't show was the very nice pattern it makes on the back of the rug. Really a nice pattern. And what I've done is I've just done my last row, fold it and fold it again, the extra fabric, and slip stitched it. You probably cut it about a half inch and a quarter and a quarter. And it's a very easy technique to finish your rug. So as the last part, I will show you how to do the stitching, and I hope you enjoy the rug. And I'm going to show you how to do the stitch. It's very simple. I start anywhere, like a regular blanket stitch, and I put my needle up and down. Let's see, up and down, and bring it up, just like a regular blanket stitch. In the center, again, don't angle your needle. Try and do it exactly in that space. And then just a regular blanket stitch. I usually have my two hands when I stitch. Up and down. I think I'll take the pin out now. And then like a regular stitch. Up and down. And you would just keep going until you finish the circle. Now, usually in my videos, I say be very careful when you're doing your rows to make sure your pennies are even. Sometimes I suggest you use masking tape. With this rug, because the pennies are small, I did not use masking tape. I didn't seem to have a need for it. Just be careful that they are not out a lot. Of course, with a small penny, even if you have a difference, it doesn't amount to the same as you would with a 2-inch or 1.5 inch. So I just stitched row by row, and it seemed to do fine. Had no problems. And my last one, I could probably do another one, but I'm not going to. I just hook it into here. Now do remember that you have a pattern on the back. This stitch forms the pattern on the back. So be careful when you stay your stitch and end the stitching on your rug, that you don't go in and make another thing. I just lightly go like this, bring it out, and then I will clip it. Now, this is what I mean by the stitching. Don't just do your thread haphazardly when you finish, because you'll ruin the nice pattern on the back of those. Now with this stitch, see, as you can see, the thread rolls. I like that. I don't mind it at all. Actually, I prefer that. But if you don't like that, you would need to do an extra stitch as you go around to stay those threads, because as you wear them, they're going to roll. Now look at this one, how it's rolled. I really like that part, but some of you may not, and if you don't, you need to do that extra little stitch when you do your blanket stitch, another extra little stitch to keep it there. So that is the finish of the teaching rug. As I said, this is just some examples, some things to note when you're choosing threads. I don't think you could choose wrong threads. It's just some threads will change the look of the rug. Some will completely change the look of the rug, like the black or the very light, almost white color. But just enjoy the rug and play with threads, see how they work for you. And I hope you enjoy.